Hey there, and welcome to another Dave Does video. Today I'm going to be checking out a Patreon request. That's where one of the patrons gets to pick up to 3 videos per month for me to check out. I'm going to be checking out a song called Fullfillment by a band called Groundhogs. It's a band I've never ever heard of. I mean, are these a 70s or an early 80s band, I would guess? I may have to do a quick bit of research on them. But they are, I mean, looking at the album cover that I've got in front of me, this is a fairly like late 70s, maybe early 80s looking vibe to it. So, yeah, I just don't know what to say about it right now until I actually listen to it. So, yeah, let's go check it out. Count it in, 3, 2, 1, go. See if I can find some info on my phone while this is going on. This is no video to watch, so I can't really do anything about that. Okay, the Groundhogs. Well, late 63. So is this a late 70s? Let's find out. Crosscut Saw was the album. Let's find out when it kind of came out. 1976. Okay, so yeah, late 70s then. There we go. Well, some would say mid to late, mid 70s. What the hell style is it? Oh, blues rock band from the English blues rock. Okay. You got to put them in the same boat at the same sort of time as like Sabbath's going on, Zeppelins as well, but obviously English band, so that kind of that's why we reference Sabbath. Same era.
Going against my better judgment. Listen to what you had to say.
Yeah, I know they're an English blues band, but this feels very Americanized.
That I was your fulfillment, and you wouldn't do anything to drive me away. Now to drive me away. I couldn't.
Feels very raw. It's almost kind of arty. They're trying to be kind of avant-garde art, blues rock.
I'm just ready to be free. Take your life in your hands when you try to change my plans.
It's almost like if the Doors went more blues rock.
Ready to be free.
Doors would have been around the same time as this, wouldn't it? 76? Or they were a bit earlier. Maybe they were earlier.
You give me one. Go ahead, cross my palm.
Yeah, 65, so they would have been coming out around about the same sort of time, so Morrison goes 17. Just a bit late, yeah, so they would have been around the same time, coming up around the same time as them. So you definitely feel like you're getting like a trippy, a bit more of a trip vibe to this. Don't know what the effect is, maybe it's a bit of like a chorus and a flanger or something mixed together. It's got the same vibe as that song, American Woman. Drum tempo was. Give me American Woman. Bass, pretty much the same bass line.
Try to change my plans. I don't need your company. I'm just ready to be free. Take your life in your hands when you try to change my plans. I don't need your company. I'm just ready to be free. Ready to be free. Ready to be free.
trippy, this song. There is a bit of an overabundant use of the old guitar effect pedals here. This big old synth keyboard going on. Okay. Fulfillment and Groundhogs. There are some really interesting things, but one of the things that I would say about this particular track is, and I suppose it's actually probably more pertinent in, or actually I tend to be able to prove it in most cases. So I can usually listen to a song and you can tell when it came out, roughly, give or take 3 or 4 years, something around that era. And the reason I say that is because normally with like metal, I can kind of go, oh, that came out in the early 2000s, or that was like a late 90s, and you're pretty much there or thereabouts. There's been the odd occasion where something doesn't sound of its time. This purely sounded of a 70s rock track, even if it wasn't from the album artwork at the beginning, which could have crossed over into early 80s as well. But as soon as the music kind of kicked in and the effects came in, it was screaming of 70s. We talked about this on the ADK channel recently about whether or not remixes, remasters a good thing, because we said some bands were remixing some of their old albums. Some bands were even re-recording old albums. We saw that with the Cavalera guys recording their early debut albums to do better justice. And I'm of the mindset that these music compositions are moments in time. So if they, for instance, the Groundhogs, if they were to re-record this now with modern techniques, yeah, the song would sound with greater clarity, etc., but it wouldn't have the same feel. You'd have lost the vibe and you've lost that moment in time. But would a better production on it give newer listeners some access? So younger listeners may not appreciate the 70s sound. I grew up with that in the 80s, so I was aware of it because it was that sort of music, because it kind of played in my household. Not necessarily this, but rock music generally, or rock and roll, classic gold. So everything from bits of Sabbath, bits of Zepp, but also things like the Carpenters and stuff. So that's why I'm probably more attuned to melody than maybe the other guys, ADK guys, Kirk and Andy, because of what my upbringing was. But there were definitely cool elements of it. But if it's kind of, you can hear the different influences. You can hear there's Zeppelin in there. You can hear elements of bands like Free, bit of Deep Purple in there as well. Not so much of the Sabbath. So I'm talking about the bigger bands today because I'm not so au fait with the unknown bands because I didn't grow up in that era. I was only born like 2 years after this came out. But you could definitely hear the influences of bands like The Doors, where you were bringing like this spoken word poetry element into it. You could hear just the psychedelic, trying to give you these layers and textures of sound that were trying to take your brain on a different journey, which I like. It's not something I'm going to put on in the car or the van when I'm driving to work to kind of take me on a chill journey. It's something that is very much a sit back, listen and let your mind go kind of concept for me on this one. it's not sort of a song or music that I would put on whilst doing other things. And I wonder if we find that more with pre-internet, multitasking, because we always have 4 million things that need to be done at any given time, so we're always trying to do it. Even now I'm sitting here, I've got the 2 monitors open, I've got my phone next to me, I've got a tablet over there. I've got a list of jobs a mile long today. I'm out filming this afternoon, live music, so I'll be filming that. I'll be editing tomorrow. I've got podcasts to sort out later today for ADK. I've got editing suites to open, I've got visual stuff to do, and I'll be doing a lot of this with music on in the background. But I listen to music as almost a background format, the stuff I want to have in like albums or play in the background. I've got 3 album reviews to do, so I'll probably have those going at some point today, and I'll just try and get them ingrained in my head, and then I'll do one listen through just in a bit more detail. But I'll have them listen, I'll play them through a few more times just to have them playing, so I can kind of accustom myself to them. But I think for 70s and 60s, actually no, probably 70s, I think would probably admit. So when you get, so the bands which made you kind of really sort of change in your mindset, I'm going into a tangent here, sorry about this, but the bands that made you kind of go into a tangent would have been probably stuff like the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's, Revolver. These were albums that people went, bloody hell, it's more than just the songs you dance to, because prior to that, if you talk about 50s and most of the 60s sort of stuff, it was music to go to the dance hall, etc., to go down that route. When we got into the 70s, we were getting things like, we had rock operas coming through with The Who and Tommy, and then we did, which was more than just a bunch of rock songs. There was storytelling elements, there was all those sort of sides of it. They had 70 bands which were more taking you through stories of journeys. So late 60s, early 70s. When we got to the 80s, it became, well, late 70s, 80s, we had the punk element, and that's where it got stripped back to being pure music again. And we really didn't, apart from bands like Floyd, Genesis, and stuff like that, that kind of wanted to take us back down into the big storytelling elements. Bands were stripping it back down to punchier, to the point songs, and we've gone back through roller coasters of bands that keep trying to reinvent that element, and we're at the moment probably the biggest band in that's doing it is probably Sleep Token. That's the most common band at the moment, going down this storytelling theatrical side of it, and it will go full circle again to punchy in your face songs again. Will be the most popular thing, but it's just ups and downs, whatever people are vibing on. What was my point on this? I don't know if I had a point, but yeah, I think my main point here is I think the 70s should never be remastered, remixed. It should be a statement of time. It's a time capsule of where music was at the time. This was a great example of that. It's not going to be for everyone, but I enjoyed it. I did. Bit long, but I still enjoyed it. Anyway, if you like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video sometime very soon. Take care.